Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for coming out today. I'm Vic Reynolds, the Director of the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. I'll be very brief, and then I'll turn the podium over to the other speakers today. I'm very honored today to announce that effective July the 1st of 2020, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation has stood up a new human trafficking special investigating unit based out of our headquarters here in the Atlanta area. This will be a statewide unit. It will be led by a special agent in charge, along with an assistant special agent in charge, and initially 4 agents assigned to work with those 2 individuals. And I'll speak about those agents in a moment. That unit is going to be called the Human Exploitation and Trafficking Unit, or HEAT, H-E-A-T. As most of you know, law enforcement never passes up an opportunity for an acronym. So it's the H-E-A-T unit, and that began effective July 1. Give you a little bit of history on this unit. The Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, and you'll hear from Director Neal in a moment, very graciously awarded the GBI 2 grant-funded special agent positions to assist in our mission to fight human trafficking. We then assigned 2 additional special agents to assist in this job as well. The unit will be focusing on the enforcement efforts of commercial sex trafficking, labor trafficking, and rescuing trafficking victims. I'm particularly pleased on the fact we'll be looking at labor trafficking in this state. We haven't done very much of that, and so we're very excited to be working that area, and I'm convinced we'll be making cases in there as well. Another interesting twist to the HEAT unit is we're actually going to be combining that unit with personnel from our existing financial investigative unit, so we can look at these trafficking cases from every aspect of it, including the financial aspect. The ultimate vision for this unit is that it become a multi-agency task force with participation from our local, state, and federal partners. It's very similar to what we're doing now and have been doing for the last 17 or 18 months with our gang task force. We certainly look forward to working with the Attorney General's new Prosecution trafficking unit. And you'll hear from Attorney General Carr in a moment, along with our existing partnerships with the local, state, and federal, both law enforcement and prosecution partners. And if you will indulge me, lastly, let me just take a moment to convey a message to those individuals who may be trafficking human beings in our state. This governor and the First Lady have made it abundantly clear that we will not tolerate this behavior in the state of Georgia. I want you to know without any equivocation that the GBI is coming after you. And we intend on pursuing these cases in every corner of the state of Georgia. We intend on investigating you. We intend on arresting you if appropriate. And we intend on insisting that you be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. And if you're convicted of trafficking another human being in this state, then make no doubt about it, we will be in the courtroom on the sentencing date insisting that you be sentenced to the fullest extent of the law. As the governor has said before, the First Lady has repeatedly said, you will not sell human beings in the state of Georgia. We're committed to ending this scourge of modern-day slavery, and we're committed to ending it now. So again, thank you for being with us today. It's my pleasure now to call on the Executive Director of the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, Mr. J. Neal.
Thank you, Director Reynolds. Appreciate the opportunity to be with you all today. I wanted to begin by thanking the Governor and the First Lady for the work that they have done in this area over the time that they've been in office. As a matter of fact, even before Governor Kemp was sworn in, we were at an anti-human trafficking event where the Governor and the First Lady and all 3 of their girls were there. Sent a very strong message from the very beginning that this was an issue that they were passionate about, and that they would work very hard, as the Director said, to end this terrible situation in Georgia. And thank you so much for the work that you have done. With their leadership and with partners like Director Reynolds and Attorney General Carr and our victim service providers around the state, with the work that they are providing, we are going to continue. We've made a difference. We have made a difference, and we're going to continue to move forward. And with the establishment of this new unit at the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, we are well positioned to continue moving forward in the fight against human trafficking here in the state of Georgia. At CJCC, we understand the value of partnerships, and through a collective impact and a common agenda, we can end problems like human trafficking. And part of our role in the criminal justice response is to identify funding opportunities that can make a big impact. In 2019, our Human Trafficking Unit applied for funding from the Department of Justice Bureau of Justice Assistance, and in response to that application, the Bureau of Justice Assistance awarded $800,000 to create the Georgia Coalition to Combat Human Trafficking. This coalition to combat human trafficking brings together law enforcement at the state and local level with direct victim service providers around the state to comprehensively address the needs of human trafficking victims and the criminal justice system. And by doing so, we will make our communities here in Georgia safer. Specifically, as Director Reynolds mentioned, we dedicated funding for 2 agents to be a part of this new unit at the Georgia Bureau of Investigations. The second component of that grant, which I think is equally important, is through this funding we were able to hire a statewide coordinator, Victor Williams, who's with us today, to lead Georgia's first law enforcement-based and statewide task force. And this task force will address all forms of human trafficking, the domestic minor sex trafficking, the adult sex trafficking, and labor trafficking, as Director Reynolds just mentioned. Mr. Williams comes to Georgia bringing a wealth of knowledge and experience, including leading a similar task force in Florida as a federal agent. We're proud to have him as a part of our team. Human trafficking is a crime against our communities that targets the most vulnerable among us, and this project was created to protect Georgians from these traffickers who profit in the billions of dollars by exploiting human beings. By leveraging the resources of CJCC's Statistical Analysis Center, we're providing this project with useful data on where human trafficking is happening in Georgia. We're enhancing the investigative work of this new unit. Our innovative team of analysts has been working overtime to identify the hot spots and proxy indicators of human trafficking activity in Georgia. And we're pleased to join the First Lady, the Governor, the Attorney General, and GBI in prioritizing our response to human trafficking in Georgia. By continuing to innovate and tackle the issue in a victim-centered, multidisciplinary, and collaborative ways, Georgia's continuing to show survivors that we stand with them, and we will continue to provide the resources they need as they put their lives back together, coming out of being a part of the human trafficking. It's just such a wonderful thing to see these individuals coming from being the victims of human trafficking to being able now to have productive and successful lives, where many of them are joining in this fight against human trafficking with us. We're going to continue this effort until the war's won and traffickers no longer can call Georgia a place that they can see as home. We're going to run them out of Georgia as we continue with this effort. And thank you all for being a part of that. And with that, I'm going to turn to Attorney General Carr.
Directors Reynolds and Neal, thank you so much for your passion and for your leadership on this issue. It is an honor to join you and the First Lady and the Governor today for this announcement. Our Human Trafficking Prosecutions Unit in our department has been focused on domestic minor sex trafficking. And so to hear this announcement today, I echo what Director Reynolds said, particularly the focus on labor trafficking, I think is important, and it's exciting, and it's another example of how the state of Georgia has made this a priority, and we will continue to eradicate human trafficking in all of its forms. You know, at the initial press conference announcing our human trafficking unit, I stood by Governor Kemp and Director Reynolds and Director Neal and so many other partners, and I promised the citizens of Georgia that we would leave no stone unturned in this critically important fight. And again, today's announcement shows the continued partnership and the continued focus with the GBI's new H.E.A.T unit. And today I'm going to provide an update and a review on what the Department of Law's Human Trafficking Unit has been focusing on. Since July 1st of last year, our unit ramped up, and it's been expanding its partnerships with local, state, and federal law enforcement officials. We've been investigating and building cases and participating in key operations to rescue victims and identify perpetrators. This team of 6 dedicated individuals includes 2 prosecutors, a criminal investigator, a criminal analyst, a victim advocate, and an administrative assistant who's on the front lines of many of the initial calls that come into the unit. As a new unit, the team's first priority was to get the word out of the existence of the team's resources and expand partnerships around the state. We believe that local, state, and federal partnerships are essential in order to ensure success. So through networking and formal meetings, collaborating on cases and projects, the team now has established solid partnerships with the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the U.S. Marshals Service, the U.S. Attorney's offices for the northern, middle, and southern districts of Georgia, various district attorneys around the state, local task forces, and numerous sheriff's offices and police departments. In addition, this team has gained membership into the FBI's Match Task Force, the GBI's H.E.A.T Task Force, the Middle District's Human Trafficking Task Force, and the Georgia Gang Investigators Association. And our team has formally met with client agencies such as DFACS in order to solidify working relationships and work on streamlining interagency processes. And at the same time, this team has been working to build cases for prosecution and investigation. In fact, we obtained our first cases from the GBI. We've now successfully presented them to grand juries. We have a case that was indicted in both Greene County and in Chatham County in January and February of this year. We have a case that was indicted in Gwinnett County in February of this year. And we've also networked with district attorneys' offices and the Prosecuting Attorneys Council to prosecute cases, any cases which require additional resources and specialties. A great example of this is a case referred by the Cobb County District Attorney's Office. This partnership led to a larger investigation and the uncovering of more information. As a result, the team re-indicted the case on February 20th of this year to include a female accomplice after investigating her involvement in trafficking. As our team has gained traction from indicting these cases, the focus has turned to how to obtain cases at an earlier stage. Because of the frequent lack of victim cooperation on human trafficking cases, it's extremely important that particular items of evidence be preserved immediately upon recovery or disclosure. Several methods are now being employed to ensure that we are included in cases early on and that we're in a position to initiate a case investigation from the onset. Another method that our team now employs is to participate in operations with other agencies that are aimed at recovering missing and exploited juveniles, or sting operations that are aimed at proactively identifying traffickers. This way, the team can be at the scene at the moment of recovery or arrest and can conduct, assist with, or oversee the investigation and ensure that it is thorough and complete. In addition to the 4 previous cases that I just mentioned that have been indicted in Cobb, Greene, Gwinnett, and Chatham counties, the unit is conducting investigations on 8 additional cases. Most of these cases have multiple victims and multiple suspects, and some include potential gang charges. The unit is active in many operations and projects, but we're unable to share in-depth details as most of those are ongoing. For example, in September of 2019, the unit participated in Forsyth County's Operation Just Cause, and I think the First Lady was there as well. It was one of the first operations that our team worked, and it was a great opportunity for us to learn and work with other law enforcement officials. This sting operation focused on arresting child predators through the use of undercover chats. Operation Just Cause netted 24 arrests, many of which have already resulted in guilty pleas, and I commend our partners in that sting. And in addition to cases, our unit's main goal is to rescue victims and help place them in safe environments to begin the rehabilitative process. For this, we rely on strong partnerships with organizations all across the state, such as Wellspring Living, Georgia Cares, Gigi's House, Out of Darkness, and many more. When we help rescue a victim and make the call, they stand ready to serve. And we were very excited to recently see the U.S. Department of Justice reward our partners with more funding to continue this important work. In addition to working with the GBI's new H.E.A.T unit, once the judicial emergency is lifted, our human trafficking unit will focus on moving pending cases through the system and trying cases that have been delayed. The team will also work to maximize the number of cases we're able to investigate and prosecute. We'll remain focused on rescuing and supporting victims and prosecuting buyers and traffickers. I want to thank again all who have supported us to get this unit up and going in this important work and this important partnership. And like Vic and Jay said, I want to thank again the Governor and the First Lady for their focus and their attention on this issue. There are not two people in the United States of America who have made this more important and who have provided more leadership. And I am grateful to the two of them for what they have done. And it's my pleasure to introduce one of the champions nationwide on the issue of fighting human trafficking, Georgia's Governor Brian Kemp.
Thank you, Attorney General Carr, for that, and I certainly appreciate your leadership as well as Vic and Jay's and certainly our First Lady. I know that you lumped me into that national conversation on human trafficking, but it is indeed, I think, Marty Kemp, our First Lady, who's done as much or more than anyone in the country to raise awareness on that issue, so thank you for that. You know, today is another great step forward in the fight to end human trafficking in our great state. And as you all know, we've been talking about this, as was mentioned today, even before day one of my administration. And we've made it clear, as Vic did again today, that in no terms are perpetrators of modern day slavery going to have any place in the state of Georgia. We also made it clear when our First Lady formed the Grace Commission and launched a human trafficking awareness training program for state employees that is now available to all Georgians. We made it clear with the passage of multiple pieces of legislation to protect our children, crack down on sex trafficking, and ensure that survivors have a voice. And I want to thank all those members of the Georgia General Assembly for their support on those measures that I believe passed unanimously with bipartisan support. We continue to make it clear today as we launch the GBI's new H.E.A.T unit. The First Lady, the members of the Grace Commission, and each of the officials who have taken the podium before me have shown an unwavering commitment to ending this evil industry in our state. And even during this unprecedented global pandemic, I can tell you that they have remained, as we are, laser focused on bringing these criminals to light and continuing to fight for the survivors that are left behind. Today, we're doubling down on our commitment to root out the perpetrators of human trafficking. And with this new H.E.A.T unit, Director Reynolds will have the resources that he needs to crack down on this criminal enterprise and ensure that perpetrators are held accountable. I think Vic made that very clear, and I am right there with him on that. Along with our First Lady and the Grace Commission, Attorney General Chris Carr, and law enforcement partners, the agents on his team will continue to work tirelessly to stop human trafficking, rescue survivors, and also ensure that justice is served. I'm proud of the work of the Grace Commission, what the Attorney General's office has been doing, the commitment that not only the GBI but local law enforcement has done to crack down on this industry, and I'm confident that this new H.E.A.T unit will strengthen in those efforts, and I certainly appreciate Director Neal and his agency's efforts as well in conjunction with that. Back in January, I said in my State of the State address that we would not stop working until we built a house that is safe and secure for all Georgians. We've made huge strides in the fight against human trafficking in Georgia, but as you know, there is still much work to be done, and we are not letting up. Again, I want to thank the commitment of our First Lady, Director Reynolds, Director Neal, Attorney General Carr, for what you are doing and for being here today, but also for your partnership in this fight. I know that working together, I'm confident that we can end human trafficking in Georgia, hold criminals accountable, and ensure a safer future for our survivors in our state. And I will leave those that are participating in this evil act with this. When our First Lady receives a call on the weekend about another young 14, 15-year-old victim that's being taken to one of the houses that Attorney General Carr mentioned earlier, it is a tragic thing, but it only makes us more resolved to come after you and to come after anyone else that's involved with you in this evil enterprise. We will not rest until we have ended that evil industry in our state. With that, we're going to open it up for a few questions, and all of us are available.
Governor,
Yeah,
can I ask an on-topic and then an off-topic, please?
Okay.
On-topic, this is one of your campaign pledges. You mentioned this. You had events before you even took office focused on this. What additional resources are you going to look for in next year's legislative session to further the crackdown?
Well, I think, I may let Vic speak to that a little bit. I mean, we've certainly, look, the General Assembly, even in these unprecedented times, has been very generous to the Bureau with our gang unit. Also, what they've done with the Attorney General's office in regards to human trafficking, as well as the grant that we've received with Jay Neal's participation with the GBI. So I would really kind of probably yield to the partners over here on what else that we need. I think right now, from our perspective, we have resources. We need to continue to focus those resources, but we'll continue to work with the legislature. Vic, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
The only thing I would add, Greg, and for everyone, is I envision the HEAT unit being a form of a force multiplier. As soon as we get the word out, which is what we're doing now, that we're here, we're available to assist you locally, statewide, and federal partners as well. I envision, as we've done with the gang task force, those folks coming to us, working with us hand in hand. I'm comfortable right now that we have the number of agents we need to begin the process. This time, when the session starts, or certainly this time next year, depending on how many cases we're involved in, that may change. But I feel very strongly we're in a good position now, and with the local partners coming on, and they will as soon as we get the word out. That'll be a force multiplier, and we'll be fine. We should be ready to go by that.
Thank you, Director.
Thank you, Governor.
And Governor, my off-topic, on the coronavirus task force report, you pushed back on the reporting of the White House's coronavirus task force report as fake news, as an attack from the liberal left and the media. Do you dispute the findings of the coronavirus task force, and what is not being covered is my question.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked me that, because I certainly did push back on the biased, one-sided reporting by the Atlanta Journal-Constitution on a leaked report. We're publishing numbers every single day on the Georgia Department of Public Health's website that Dr. Toomey and her team are doing. What the article that the AJC wrote didn't tell Georgians that right now our hospitalizations are down 18.8% since our peak on July 30th. That's the lowest level since July 13th. Our 7-day average of new cases reported are down 26%. 26% since our peak on July 24th, and they're the lowest since July 8th. Our 7-day average of tests coming back positive, or our percent positive, which is something that everybody's been focused on. 2 weeks ago, they said it was way too high and we had to do something. Well, we've been doing something. That is down from 14% on our peak on July 17th to 9.7% as of yesterday. It's good to be below 10%, which we are. It's better if we can drive it down to 5, which is what we continue to try to do. Our transmission rate of the virus, according to the AJC's own website, even though they didn't include this in the article, is less than 1, which is good. If you're more than 1, it means the virus is spreading. If you're less than 1, it means that you're doing a better job of containing it. We're at 0.85. This is what's so frustrating about pandemic politics and leaked reports. We're glad to talk about these numbers every day. Dr. Toomey did press all week. I don't think I've seen hardly any of that quoted in the paper. So I wouldn't be able to speak to who leaked the report, why they leaked it, what the politics were behind the leak. All I'm asking for is Georgians to get all the information. If we're the highest percent capita in the state right now, that's because Texas and Florida and Arizona and some of the other states that were peaking a week or two ago are on the downcline, just like we are. But that is not the only number that Georgians need to look at. And I will tell you that the media only focuses on the bad numbers. They never focus on the good numbers. You look back 3 weeks ago, the focus was on hospitalizations. We're going to run out of hospital beds. Well, you know what? We had a plan for that. We had a surge capacity plan, which we stood up. We have not run out of hospital beds, and we have allowed every single hospital, for the most part in this state, on normal days to be able to do other procedures other than dealing with COVID patients, to help all Georgians get access to health care for critical services, not just COVID, but also to help their financial bottom line. So all I'm asking people is to follow the data that's on the Georgia Department of Public Health's website. Dr. Toomey is talking to her people that are on the ground every single day. We're looking at the contact tracing data to understand where the spread's coming from. And we've also said, when we open schools, when we open back up, we're going to have things that happen. The reason that we shut down for a few weeks in the first place was to build the hospital capacity, was to build up the PPE supplies, the ventilator supplies, and all the other things that we needed to do so that we were able to deal with this situation when it got here. And I can promise you, we will continue to do that. We'll continue to fight to protect lives in our state. But we also have to focus on livelihoods. Unemployment, has run out. We're working with the President's executive order as fast as we can with Commissioner Butler's office to fix that. But I talked to a guy this morning that literally told me he had a salon. A friend of his was telling me that this guy had a salon business that was literally on the verge of selling everything and shutting down when we opened up. And we know if we shut down again, there will be businesses and jobs that will be lost forever. We have to think about that as well in our fight, and that's what we're going to continue to do.
Governor Kemp, Sam Whitehead from WABE, thanks for taking this question. All those statistics can be true, and Georgia can still have the highest case rate in the country. It's easy to point at the AJC, but this is a report coming from the White House, and they've made recommendations for multiple weeks now.
No, this is a report that was leaked to the AJC, and they didn't write about all the numbers. You're not
Sure.
being truthful with people.
Sir, but this
So
report has
just look, I'm fine. If you want to put the per capita numbers out there, I look at them every day, and that's good. But when you put that out there, also put that those numbers have dropped 26%. Also put that our hospitalizations have dropped. To scare people with one number is not fair to the general public. You are not giving them the benefit of the doubt to make good decisions based on all the data. That's all I'm saying. I'm not afraid. I can't tell you how many press conferences that I've done and taken every single question the whole time. And all I'm asking is for people to put all the data out there, or to just ask for our side of the story in the article.
And sure, and to finish the question, how many times does the White House need to make a recommendation that the state do something like bars before that is a measure you take? This is a recommendation that's been made for multiple weeks
The
now.
coronavirus task force, as you know, the president and the vice president say it every week. They're supporting the governors to make the decisions in their state. And I have great appreciation to President Trump saying that and for the vice president saying that. I have met with Dr. Birx, but Dr. Birx is not our public health director in the state of Georgia. Dr. Toomey is. And if Georgians will take the time to look at her resume, to look at her qualifications, she has worked with Debbie Birx in the past. She has worked with Dr. Redfield in the past. I'm pretty sure she's worked with Dr. Fauci. If she hasn't, she knows him very well. We've worked with Dr. Adams. So we take their recommendations, but it doesn't mean that every governor is going to follow every single one of them. Because like I told her, the contact tracing we're seeing has nothing to do with in-person dining. It has everything to do with social gatherings that are happening outside of businesses and other things, and that's why we continue to focus and ask people to do 4 things for 4 weeks. Socially distance, wear your mask, wash your hands, and follow, but yes, let's enforce the current regulations that we have a gatherings ban. Do we have anybody enforcing that at the local level? That would be a good question for the press to ask. We are doing all we can with our law enforcement to protect lives and property all across this state right now. And we can't be every city's police agency. I would urge them to enforce the regulations, especially on the gatherings ban, on social distancing, and whatever else that's in our orders or orders that they are now doing.
Governor Kemp, Brenda Yandy from CBS 46. Putting that report aside and moving over to Harvard's Global Health Institute, their COVID-19 tracking information, they're listing Georgia as the #1 in the country for transmissions rate. So my question for you is, does this bother you that we're at the top of the list, and have you even thought about maybe reaching out to other states?
Well, like, when is that data from? Is that from Sunday, yesterday?
It's the most
2
recent,
days ago?
It's the most recent
Because it
information.
depends, because like if you looked at the Wall Street Journal where you're having the per capita per 100,000 cases, you know, 3 days ago, we were on the top of the list. Today, we're not. Yesterday, we weren't. So what day are you talking about? And it also depends on, you know, one of the things that's making our per capita cases go up is our demand for testing is going down. You know why? Because there's not as much spread going on. People are not as anxious as they were 3 or 4 weeks ago because things got very hot. Everybody knew they had to do better, and it's been working. You know, we've been encouraging people to do that. A lot of other people have as well, and we're on the backside of the spread. But you can't blame the government because people don't want to go get tested now. I want to continue to urge all Georgians to get tested. In a lot of ways, it would help me out if people where there's not much spread would go get tested, because it skew the numbers the other way. But from a public health perspective, and what Dr. Toomey has us focused on, is we're focusing on the areas where we see the highest spread. We're contact tracing where we have outbreaks. And when you do that, your percent positive is going to be higher than if you just test everybody everywhere. But we're doing that because we're focused on protecting the most vulnerable. We're focusing on our long-term care facilities, on our places where we've had outbreaks. So, you know, that's why it's important for people to look at all the numbers in regards to that.
So what about the transmission rates at an education level? If you look over in Cherokee County in the past 2 weeks with face-to-face instruction returning, we've already seen 3 separate high schools have to close because of how quickly things spread. And so we do have a lot of anxious parents. We do have a lot of anxious parents there. So what do you say to those parents who are worried about their children right now as those cases continue to spread?
So
at an education with face-to-face instruction, what do you think needs to happen? You know, should masks be mandatory within schools? Like, what steps are you currently considering in order to, you know, make a difference within those school districts that have face-to-face instruction?
Which one of the questions did you want me to answer first?
What are you doing about schools?
Well, what was the first question you asked me? I know you don't remember, so I'll repeat it for you. You asked me if it was concerning about the kids coming back to Cherokee County and them having to shut schools down because of the spread. Well, the spread didn't happen in the school for the most part. It happened because people came back to school and they already had the coronavirus. So is that the government's fault? Is that the school's fault? No, it is not. But what we're doing is exactly what is on CDC's website and what Dr. Toomey has recommended and what the superintendent up there thinks is the best thing to do. They did the contact tracing, they're doing the quarantine, and where they felt necessary, they shut the schools down. But for you to put panic out there, for every other district that's in the state that is opened very well and hadn't had any issues, I think quite honestly is unfair. I mean, they're dealing with the Cherokee situation. Do I wish it wasn't happening like that? I certainly do, but also know that I've talked to multiple other superintendents and teachers that has been open, some of them up for 2 weeks now, and have had no issues whatsoever.
How have I personally created panic? Let me answer that question for you. I haven't. You can't point to a single story that I have. Everything I have done is balanced and just reporting what the school districts and the state are doing. Thank you.
Governor Kemp, thank you so much. Actually, this question is for First Lady Marty Kemp.
You're the man, Arch. I know she's been looking forward to this.
Great. How are y'all?
Doing well. Thank you so much for taking time. We had spoken earlier this year about the Race Commission and everything that you had envisioned, and this is sort of coming to fruition. With the pandemic, what extent have you seen perhaps the human trafficking cases in Georgia and the hotspots changing, if any, over the last 6 months? And can you address where those hotspots in Georgia are?
Well, that's probably not a good question for me because that would probably be more for our law enforcement. But we do know, and we have been very much worried about children being on, on their computers and all of that. So we have tried to put out messages that will, help parents know that they need to do their parental controls on the, on the computers, to talk to their children, encourage them just to keep that education and awareness always going, all the time. So I don't know if that is something that our guys know more about. I'm not on that.
Okay, Vic, be able to say a few words. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Criminals don't take any time off. It continues. And you'll hear, I know, in the coming weeks on efforts that we're all involved in to make sure that it stops, but the pandemic hadn't stopped it. And that's why it's exciting to hear the news today that we're going to continue to focus not just on domestic minor sex trafficking, but on rescuing adult victims of human trafficking and labor trafficking as well. Vic?
Mark, I would just add to that, this situation about schools not being in session and things of that nature, what we've seen is that layer of protection that children frequently have at schools taken away. And based upon that, our GBI H.E.A.T unit, which is our computer exploitation of children unit, has been so busy this past 3 or 4 months. You may have seen we've issued a number of releases on cases that unit has made all over the state on individuals involving child pornography and things of that nature. So we're certainly seeing an increase in those numbers. That is frequently intertwined with trafficking, particularly with child victims, and so we're seeing that as well. And there's no, it's easy for us to say the metro's the hot spot just because, close to 60% of our population lives in the metropolitan Atlanta area, but we're seeing it all over. We were down in the Valdosta area recently with that GBI H.E.A.T unit making cases there. We make cases all over. We're up in Athens not long ago with an operation there, so we're certainly seeing it all over. And I think as far as the pandemic is concerned, General Carr is right that it certainly hasn't stopped anything that the GBI has seen or been involved in the last months.
Thank you.
Thank you.